Hi, my name is Leonard Jemison. You're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
The mix of salty sea air and burnt rubber. The big skies, high banks, and grandstands. The rumble in your chest. That's what we love about the Daytona 500. Honoring history and making it. At the biggest race of the year on the biggest stage of a lifetime. That's what we love about the Daytona 500. You gotta see it to believe it. Secure your experience now at Daytona500.com.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Tuesday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you on this Tuesday afternoon as we take a look back to Alabama basketball's big weekend, especially for the men at Auburn, and look ahead to everything coming up at the capstone this week. We'll start our show, as we always do, with our headlines, thanks to our friends RJ Young. RJ Young, the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. Let's see what's coming up on the show this Tuesday afternoon. First of all, we'll visit with former Crimson Tide legendary basketball player and, this past week, our fill-in radio analyst on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, JaMychal Green. We'll get his thoughts on seeing Alabama in person, that great win against the Auburn Tigers, plus some thoughts on his Alabama career and NBA career as well. Then we'll take a look back to last week's edition of Hey Coach with Rob Vaughn as he joined Chris Stewart at Hey Coach talking about the start of the 2026 season that will begin coming up later this week against Washington State. Then we'll go back to last night's edition of Hey Coach with Nate Oats as he will give us thoughts on everything that happened right for Alabama in the win against Auburn and what's ahead coming up later this week. Starting with men's basketball in our headlines, what a win for Alabama against the Auburn Tigers, 96-92 on Saturday. Another dramatic game down at Neville Arena, but the Crimson Tide able to pull it out and win back-to-back trips to Auburn for the first time in over 12 years. So great to see that for Alabama. LeBaron Finalon Jr., another great performance for the Crimson Tide. As a result, he is the SEC Player of the Week. And how about Aiden Holloway, someone we've had in the last few weeks here on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Facing his former team in his former building, he surpasses the 1,000 career point mark. So great tip of the cap to Aiden Holloway for getting that milestone, especially where he got it. Very meaningful for Aiden Holloway. Now coming up for the Crimson Tide tomorrow, it's Alabama against the Ole Miss Rebels. Tip-off will be at 6 p.m. at the SJB Pavilion coming up in Oxford, Mississippi. First home game that Ole Miss has hosted in nearly a month due to the ice storm that the Rebels and everybody in Oxford, Mississippi has had to deal with. So charged up atmosphere. Nate Oats will talk about that coming up later on during our Hey Coach replay. Taking a look at Alabama women's basketball. Speaking of Ole Miss, last Thursday night, very impressive win for the Crimson Tide women's basketball team against Ole Miss, 64-63, and then had another tight game on Sunday, but unfortunately fell to Texas A&M. 72-69 was the final score. Now, Alabama, after going 1-1 last week, still remains in the top 25, coming in at number 23 in the AP poll. There will not be a game for the Crimson Tide coming up on Thursday, but the return to action coming up for the Power of Pink and Play for K game coming up on Sunday against 10th ranked Oklahoma. That game will tip off at 3 o'clock here in Tuscaloosa at Coleman Coliseum. Then we go for the first time this year to Alabama on the diamond. We start with softball. What a start to the season for team number 30, going a perfect 5-0 at the Buzz Classic. And I love that note right under that. Outscoring teams 51-5. That's really good run differential right there of Coach Murphy and the Crimson Tide, as we saw a lot of home runs. We saw combined no-hitters, strikeouts on the mound. We saw everything for the Crimson Tide in that first weekend of the season. Now this weekend, Alabama's back at home with the Bama Bash, Purdue, Liberty, Georgia Southern coming up over the weekend. We look forward to Alabama softball at the Rhodes House for the first time this season. Same to be said for the Crimson Tide baseball team led by Rob Vaughn. This weekend, it's Alabama against Washington State in a 3-game series. Cannot wait to get it going at the Joe for a lot of excitement building for Coach Vaughn and year 3 of his tenure in Tuscaloosa. Then some final notes around Alabama athletics. The gymnastics team once again performed well. The best road score we've seen from Alabama this year unfortunately fell to number 2 Oklahoma on Friday in a narrow loss against one of the best in the nation, the Oklahoma Sooners. Now coming up this Friday, Alabama's at home against Arkansas. 6:30 will be the start time. That is the Power of Pink meet, so you're going to see Coleman Coliseum completely decked out in pink over this weekend for both gymnastics, men's and women's basketball as well. Also, congratulations to our Super Bowl champions, Josh Jobe, Jaron Reed, Robbie Utes, and Jalen Milroe. The Seattle Seahawks getting the win over the New England Patriots, who also had, I believe, 3 members of the Crimson Tide fraternity on their roster as well. But great to see the Super Bowl on Sunday as the NFL season has come to a close. And again, we're starting to talk about some spring sports here at the University of Alabama. It's just that time of the year as we get into mid February. This past week, Brian Passink was on assignment on Saturday, so he had to miss Alabama's game at Auburn. So he called on somebody that lives pretty close by down to the plains of Montgomery zone, JaMychal Green, joining us with Chris Stewart on the Crimson Tide Sports Network for the call of that game. He joins us now to talk about getting to fill in on the radio, what he's seen from Alabama this season, plus some thoughts on a great career in Crimson. Here's our conversation with JaMychal Green. JaMychal, Roll Tide, man. It was great to see you with Chris. Did you have a lot of fun down at Neville
Yes,
Arena this
sir.
past
Roll
weekend?
Tide, and I had a great time, man. Had a great time.
Well, it was a great win, first of all, for Alabama. Just your overall impressions getting to see this team in person and what it took to get that win in a hostile environment.
That was a great game for me to come to. Like you said, that's a rivalry game, so you know what comes with that. It's a little bad blood. You get a little extra fighting in that type of environment. So it was great to see them pull out a win like that on the road. Especially being down during the game. I just like the poise and how they stayed with it, never gave up, and they got the job done.
They certainly did. And for LeBaron Philon, another great game scoring, kind of
Mhm.
doing a little bit of everything. He's named the SEC Player of the Week. Just when you watch him, what impresses you the most about his game?
Just his confidence. For me, making big shots, stepping up to the plate, making and knocking down big shots. He had a moment in the game to where he hit a three, and I think he got to the goal and got a two. But the way he put the team on his back, and he's not shying away from the moment. I like
Uh,
that.
How about Aiden Holloway, too? I mean, that's his old team that he was able to
Yeah.
score his 1,000th point against.
Yeah, I mean he did a great job. Started out slow during the game, but he didn't get frustrated and take himself out the game, and that's what I like most about him because he had an opportunity to seal the game. And when he hit that damn 1-3, that was a big moment. So him just staying ready for that moment.
It really was. And then Alabama picks up this win against Auburn. Unfortunately, get the tough news that the Crimson Tide will be without Charles Bediako for the
Yeah.
rest of the season. Where do you think Alabama goes from here, especially at that forward post position?
I think that was a tough call. With him already playing, I just felt like they should have just allowed him to continue to play and finish the season. But now, Sherrill and the next big, they just gonna have to step up. Probably do four guards, one big. With the Allen, he's a kind of do it all player, so he could play 1 through 4. So you lose a little bit, but I think they still will be okay.
Still will be okay for the Crimson Tide again under the direction of Nate Oats. And I know you played before Coach Oats got to Tuscaloosa, but in your time watching how he's kind of molded this program over the last few years, what do you like most about where Alabama basketball is going under Nate Oats?
He's kind of reminding me of the new Saban basketball, basketball wise. The way he came in and turned the program around and what he's doing a great job. I think he was the perfect fit for the program, and excited to see the continuance of the greatness that he's bringing to the program. So the way we shooting the ball right now, that's something that we lacked when I was at the university. We didn't have too many 3-point shooters. So the way we shooting the ball right now and shooting it consistently, I like that. We more up tempo as a team. I just love what he bringing. I love what he bringing.
Would you have liked playing in this style of system?
I would have. That's all I was missing. What we missing now is like a scoring big, a back to the basket big that could get you a bucket down there. So I would have blended in perfectly with this team. With me being able to score down low and to have shooters around me, that would have been deadly.
When you look back to your Alabama career, what are you most proud of your time at the Capstone?
Um, just most proud of getting the basketball back to the basketball where we at now. Like we didn't make it to the Final Four, Sweet 16, but I think we started to bring that edge back to basketball. My junior and senior year, I could just see the program start to turn around. Um, but just enjoy what I did. I came in, stayed out 4 years, you know, got in a little trouble while I was in school, but stayed out of trouble. So that's what I'm mostly proud of, just the growth.
Absolutely. And that led to a
Yeah.
very good long pro career as well. Just tell us what you're up to these days.
Right now, just I'm just get into the business. Just open up a restaurant in Tuscaloosa, JR Crickets, Tuscaloosa. No, it's doing very well right now. Um, just I put some money in 2 dispensaries. So right now, just being a businessman. Just had 2 twin boys. Have 5 kids and all. So just being home and just being around the kids, man.
Well, that's certainly good. Well, we look forward to seeing you in Tuscaloosa, not just at the restaurant, Coleman Coliseum as well.
Yes, sir.
JaMychal, again, you did a great job filling in for Brian Passink on the radio. Just thank you for the time you've given us here on the
Thank
Crimson
you.
Tide Sports Network. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. You take care.
Back out to Jemison, driving the lob, the catch underneath, the layup by Sherrill. Aiden the reverse on the beautiful feed from Jemison, and Bama has its biggest lead at 6. It's Phylon, 6 to shoot. Phylon at 5, a deep 3, bottom. Oh, Mercy LeBaron, Phylon Jr. buries the bank first 3. With it, gives it off. Allen for 3, bottom.
That's a big shot right there.
Big contested
Huge
3 from Amari Allen with a hand in his face, and Bama leads by 4. Aiden to his right, down the lane, left hand, got it! He switched hands in midair and got it to go. And Aiden has given Bama a 6-point lead with under 2 minutes to play. Inbounds goes in the corner, Overton, now to Pettiford. 3 is no good. Tipped out long, 2 seconds. 1, it's missed. And again, folks, I say it emphatically, let's get out of here. 96-92. Bama hangs on to beat Auburn. A pair of massive wins this week for the Crimson Tide.
My name's Ada Sherrill, and you're watching Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR.
This isn't just a race, it's the race. 500 miles of glory, a million memories, one place. That's what we love about the Daytona 500. You gotta see it to believe it. Secure your experience now at Daytona500.com.
JaMychal was great on the radio for us over the weekend. Look forward to seeing him down the road, maybe here in Tuscaloosa at some point as well. Somebody we're going to see a lot of in Tuscaloosa over the first few weeks of this season, Rob Vaughn, the head coach of the Crimson Tide baseball team. Last week, he joined Chris Stewart at Baumhower's Victory Grill for Hey Coach, giving his thoughts on what's ahead for his third team at Alabama and everything coming up as we get ready for the 2026 season. Here's Head Coach Replay with Rob Vaughn.
Head coach Rob Vaughn, Bama Baseball, joining us here at Baumhower's Victory Grill. Coach, always good to see you. I'm sure you're glad to be, I start saying inside where it's warm, but dadgum, this is the warmest it's been in about 3 weeks, isn't it?
Everybody lied to me, man. Like, they told me when I was leaving Maryland we weren't going to deal with this anymore.
Yeah, it's part of coming here.
No, man, it's been – last 2 weeks been a lot of adjustment to schedules, and – man, it's like the weekends have been the thing. The weeks have been pretty fine, and then the weekends has been cold or snowy or icy or something, so we've had to adjust off that a little bit. But we're able to get our work in and should have a decent week. I know we got some rain tomorrow, but should have a decent week to kind of get on schedule for the last week before we get going.
Having the indoor facility you have helps dramatically, I know, but there's nothing like for baseball being outside. Just with the cold weather period, whether it's the extreme that we've just had or most years, late January, February, that's a tough time because you want to get work in. I understand it is cold, but you're going to have to push through it a little bit. But there's also the injury aspect that you've got to guard against in your sport as much or more than any other due to the weather.
No doubt. And I think that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to walk that line. It's real hard to talk about toughness when it's a little uncomfortable. We go running for the hills, but at the same time, man, we need our guys ready to go, and you don't want to put anybody at unnecessary risk. So we kind of, you have the indoor, you're able to work through some of that. But this time of year, man, so much of it is just the gameplay, getting them back into gameplay. Something as simple as just being on your feet for 9 innings. Getting used to what that feels like is important, and you can't really simulate that unless you're outside. So, we kind of intentionally did it last Friday. We ended up, just because you see so many different things, we ended up kind of simulating a doubleheader last Friday. So we went out and played 5 innings, took a 30-minute break, sent everybody inside to kind of simulate that field and get them back out and get them going again. So just trying to throw some different things at them because that's going to come. We're going to have some cold spells this spring. We're going to have rain this spring. We're going to have delays, and we've got to be able to come out and ring the bell no matter what's thrown at us. So you are trying to walk that balance of making sure you feel prepared, that guys have got their at-bats, so we've kind of got some of the baseball feel stuff while also protecting them. I mean, we got some really high-end arms that you're trying to really be cognizant. Position players, I don't worry about that much. Those guys are, as long as you're stretched out, you're good. It's more some of those arms. You don't want to put them in risky spots. So having to be smart with that, but we got to work in. Boys look good.
Yep, and you also had a big weekend. You had a huge event for your program. Yeah, it's a fundraiser, but it's really an opportunity for people in the community to get to be around your guys, and a lot of folks that are here were there. Forgive me, first pitch?
Yeah, first
pitch dinner, and a really cool event. You had it in the South Zone this year, the football stadium. So tell us about the event and what that really does for your program.
Yeah, I mean, there's a piece of it that's absolutely a fundraising component, right? In college athletics, in the world we're in now, there's elements of continuing to raise money and continue to raise funds. It's more important now than ever. But at the same time, I think it's a time for these fans to interact with our players, for them to interact with us. And I think as the rules continue to change in college athletics, I think sometimes it's so easy to forget that they're 18-year-old kids across from you out on that field, and I think it humanizes them a little bit when you can sit and have a conversation with them. Our guys work the tables. We thought it up last year. We do a giant bingo thing, and bingo gets rowdy at that thing. It's awesome. And I remember the first time they said, we're going to do bingo. I was like, that's the corniest thing I've ever heard. We're going to play bingo. Nobody wants to play bingo. And it's awesome. So there's a silent auction component. There's a bingo component. Our guys are literally serving the tables. They're going to get food. They're getting bingo cards. They're kind of the servers of the table, and they just interact with them. And I think there's, like I said, there's just an awesome piece of humanity that comes out in that. And you get to see not the guy that's standing out at shortstop and Justin LeBron, but you get to see the human he is on display. And I think that's what I think as fans and as supporters make it dang proud to have kids like that in the program.
That's exactly the word I was going to use. It's like a proud parent, because these are young people, and I get a chance to experience it in multiple sports, as you know, and we've talked about this before. In the past, when there was distance, it's just college athletics and the fan base. But now, to me, one of the best things with NIL that's happened is the direct interaction that does get to take place, because we do at Alabama have so many great young people that you want them to understand who it is they're supporting, who they're fans of, and they're such great representatives of the school.
And I think that's the coolest thing. I think, NIL gets, by us coaches, gets bashed all the time, right? It's ruined the sport. It's done this. It's done that. And, man, it's different. It's a different world than it was 5 to 7 years ago. But I think you're exactly right. I think you get to see the personality of some of these guys. You get to see some of that come out. You get to see how they interact with business owners and people that's a little bit uncomfortable for them. I mean, these guys are real comfortable standing on a mound in front of 10,000 people, but, man, having a conversation with somebody about business, about this, it's different for them, and it gets them out there. It gets their personality out there, lets them get some real-world experience in that, and man, it's a really neat thing. And so, like I said, I think we can sit here and bash it for what it is, but that's just the way it's gone. So I've told my wife 1,000 times, if I don't like it, I got to go start selling cars or do something different, because it just is what it is. Here we are. So, but I do think there's some really neat things, if you peel the onion back, that this world of college athletics has done for us. And getting to see these kids as more than just the dude that's out on the field has been a really cool component of that.
Coach Rob Vaughn with us, and we also welcome in Coach, one of your standouts on the Hill. We'll let you do the formal introduction to Zane Adams, if you will.
Yeah, he'll be nice and embarrassed here.
That's fine.
No, it's funny. Zane and I, weirdly enough, have been tied together for a really long time. I was at Maryland. I got the job here, and I remember my mom telling me, she was like, hey, one of the incoming players, you went to high school with his mom. I was like, what are you talking about? And sure enough, like, we go through it, and Amanda and I, Zane's mom, we went to high school together. She was a couple years in front of me, but knew her all through high school, and so it was a really surreal moment that first year when I go knocking on their door. And me and Zane had never met, but, man, it was like we were frozen in time. I hadn't seen Amanda in 20 years, and I go knock on the door. She opens it, and it's like, hey, why don't you let your kid come play for me, How's that go? So it was a cool full circle moment, but, man, Zayner's everything we want, guys, and I joke about embarrassing him, but this is a kid that chose Alabama for one, to commit here, but the draft was a real thing for him out of high school. If he wanted to sign, he could have easily signed out of high school, turned down any opportunity there, walked away from what a lot of guys probably wouldn't walk away from in order to come here. Again, was draft eligible as a sophomore last year due to his age, and man, I remember sitting in the office with him, and it's like, man, we ain't done here yet. I need another run at this thing. And so, again, just chose this place. I think so much of recruiting, you're trying to convince kids to come in. This guy chose, and he's a Texas boy, chose Alabama and wants to be here and leave a mark here. And, man, we're thrilled he did.
Zane, tell us why Bama was right for you even before Coach Vaughn became the head coach?
Yeah, well, I will say I have a lot of family from Alabama, so
Yeah.
I'm from Texas, but I've been an Alabama fan since I was a baby.
So you were raised right.
Yes,
That's the main
exactly,
thing.
yeah,
You grew up
exactly.
Texas, but you were raised right.
No,
That's good.
I don't like burnt orange.
Good.
Don't like it.
Or any other shade for that matter.
No, sir.
Good deal. So Bama fan from a distance. And tell me about, what it's like getting called and being told by the University of Alabama, hey, we think you can play. We'd love for you to play for us. We're recruiting you. I would imagine that was beyond a special moment for you.
Yeah, that was unreal. Just like that's the team I grew up watching, and like that moment when they called, and I was like this is the team I grew up watching, and they're calling me, wanting me to go there. Yeah, it was a special moment for sure.
Beyond the stats, tell us about this guy, what makes him so effective, and a guy that you rely so heavily on.
Yeah, I think as a coach, you just want reliability. You want to know what you're getting out of guys, and Zane's the exact guy you draw up as an arm. I mean, it's physical, it's left-handed, it's continued getting better and better through his career. But, man, when Zane's got his A-plus stuff, you don't have a chance. But what makes him who he is when he doesn't have his best stuff, he's just a competitor, and it might not see it. He's not the boisterous pound on his chest, do all that stuff. But I say it all the time, man. If you're real tough dudes, you don't have to tell everybody you're tough. You just do tough stuff, and that's
right.
Zane, And when the rubber meets the road, when a lot of guys quit, when a lot of guys roll over, he leaned in and he worked harder and got better. And we just know what we're going to get out of him. And I think that's what you're looking for as a coach is, yes, it's high-end stuff. It's got the ability to do that. But, man, he loves to compete. This place means the world to him. And, man, we're fortunate he gets to tow the rubber for us every weekend.
Talk to me about the rotation in Zane's piece of it, but what you're looking at. I know it's early still.
Yeah.
But I say it's early. Good grief. We're less than 2 weeks away from the opener.
No doubt.
It's that time.
Pretty fortunate coming back this year. Tyler Fay kind of broke through in the rotation last year for us. Tyler Spin here was a walk-on from Nebraska, converted into kind of a bullpen guy. Man, we threw him into the fire at LSU last year on Thursday night against Cade Anderson, and he outpitched Cade for 5 innings and was kind of his coming out party, and kind of the same like Zane could have signed this summer. Had a lot of teams interested in him and walked away from that to come back for one more ride. And so you look at Zaner and T-Fay, kind of a really good way to start the weekend in whatever order we end up putting those guys in. But veterans, guys that have been there, guys we trust, strike throwers, competitors. And then Sunday, I think, is an exciting situation. You got a guy like Matt Heiberger, who's been a bullpen guy for us, but is an ultra competitor, ultra gamer, that pitched a lot in the Cape, started up in the Cape this summer, is a weapon there. So just figuring out, man, is that the role for him, or is the fireman in the bullpen the role for him, the closer the role for him? You got a young freshman in Miles Upchurch that, man, when Zane and T-Fay go on, we have him and a guy named Luke Smyers, another freshman, that are going to be the next two to step into that role. So are those guys ready? Both have had great preseasons up to this point. One's left, one's right. Both compete their tails off. Then you have a guy, Bobby Alcock, who Bobby started for us last year, was SEC pitcher of the week at Texas A&M last year. So you have an option in him, JT Blackwood. So that third spot, it's not strictly who's the best starter. It's what's the best combination. Who do we need to keep in the bullpen? If you tell me I can flip the ball from T-Fay to Matt Heiberger and that's a win on Friday night, that's a hard thing to walk away from. So just figuring out how those pieces work. We feel really good about 2 of the 3. We feel great about our third options. It's just which route we decide to go.
Friday night at home, not this Friday, but next Friday night. We ain't worried about Friday the 13th coming around, Coach. A little afternoon baseball. I love, as somebody who's still doing some early season games with you, really appreciate the 4 o'clock games rather than 6 or 6:30 for first pitch on a lot of those.
Trying to get you home at a decent hour, and it's play the weather a little bit. I like playing under the lights, so when those 6 o'clock games start, man, it's special. A lot of fun. It's
special at the Joe. Zane, I'm curious for you what it's been like to see Alabama baseball excitement grow again for this program, consistent participant in the NCAA regionals, and those Friday night crowds, what that's like for you as a player to be a part of that.
It's a big deal to all of us. Whenever we're playing on the field and we got the support of all the fans behind us, it definitely helps. Maybe gets a mile some velo out a little bit.
Sure,
I don't know.
exactly.
Throw a little
extra
bit harder.
juice.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, I went with the wrong hand. Not that applies on radio, but I should have gone left hand for you. The student section, too. The right field Ragers has become a thing over the years that's pretty special, and I think it's great you guys go out and actually celebrate with them after a win and kind of make the victory lap with those guys. That's a pretty cool deal.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no. Yeah, we love doing that. Just like, especially Bryce, like getting to know them. And it's like we know a lot of the right field Ragers, so it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Those guys are winded when they get back, though. I tell you what,
That's
those
a long
guys
way
are
out there.
sucking wind when they get back to left field to see me.
It's not that it's a long way out there, but you hop that many times to give a high five to guys. That'll get your attention quick. Tell me about some position guys, and I know it starts with Justin LeBron because of now the fact crazy think he's a veteran, but he is. The phrase "diamond in the rough" certainly applies with him. And for those that don't know the story, he was a good kid, could be a good defender. He turned out to maybe be one of the top draft picks in all of college baseball this year, or pro baseball at the end of this year.
No doubt, man. I give credit to the previous staff for kind of that process in recruiting him, and that's what you got to find, man. That's the key. Everybody can go out and see the best player in the country. My mom could go out there and find that guy. That's not hard. It's the guy that has some tools, but maybe it's not there yet. Like, that's what we've spent our career, me and my staff. Like, that's what we spent our career from our time at Maryland to JJ's at FAU. Like, that's what we've done is we've had to find that guy that had some pieces that were really good, and you had to develop them. And that's kind of been our MO from the rip. And I think Justin was perfectly in line for that. It was a kid that was 150 pounds soaking wet coming in as a freshman that's 195 pounds and has muscles that I didn't know existed right now. So he's just developed into a complete player. He flies around the base. He can really run. He can really defend. He can hit for power. He's the linchpin of this thing, but it's really neat to have some dudes around him. We have some depth on the positional side that we haven't had. And we got some guys banged up, but still feel like we have depth to go function and go do some things. So we're excited about this position player group.
Let's get a phone call real quick from Pee Wee down in Grand Bay. We normally hear from you talking hoops, but first question brought to us by Alabama 811. Help prevent injuries, outages, and loss of life. Call 811 or visit al811.com before you dig. It's free. It's simple. It's the law. It's Pee Wee down in Grand Bay. Go ahead, buddy.
Hey, Coach Vaughn, how are you, sir?
I couldn't be any better, Pee Wee. How are you, baby?
I'm doing good, man. Coach, I was wondering, after last season, when you kind of self-assessed the entire season and you made a plan going forward for this year, how have you progressed towards that plan of what you wanted to do, what you wanted to do better, and how you wanted to do it? How have you progressed to that?
Man, that's an awesome question. I think we did some really cool things last year. 40 games for the first time since 2002. Went undefeated in midweeks, won 17 conference games. Some things that on paper you look at and say, man, that's a heck of a year. But I think as a staff and as a team, we looked at last year and said, man, we played 2 games down in Hattiesburg and went home while everybody else got to keep playing, and that's not good enough for this place. And so for us, a big piece of this was just putting a huge emphasis on finishing, putting a huge emphasis on being the best version of ourselves late in the year. And how do we do that? How do we stay healthy? How does our strength and conditioning play into that? How does the kind of the rotation of players, that's a big piece of depth. If you looked at the lineups I ran out last year, it was about the same 10 or 11 guys every weekend, and you felt like on the pitching staff, same thing. We had a superstar All-American in Carson Osmer, but, man, just had to use him way more than I'd like to use him, and I think because of that, we didn't have the best version of Carson Osmer late. We got the competitor, but we had a guy that was kind of limping to the finish line because we just had to use him so much. So we went into this offseason really trying to create some more depth. I think the first 2 years were spent trying to get the product right on the field, and now it's like, man, we like the product. How do we create the depth to keep these guys as fresh as we can humanly be? And our recruiting coordinator, Mike Morrison, did an incredible job of kind of assembling a group of guys that, man, they're cut from the same cloth. They're grinders. There are a lot of guys that have been told at some point in their career, you're not good enough. And man, that's us. That's who we are. That's what we are. That's what Nate Oats and his staff are, man. That's that blue collar, that grit, that toughness. That's what Alabama is, and we wanted to make sure we had a group of dudes on the field that embodied that. And so, I think we've done a good job addressing some of those. We've had 3 really good weeks of practice leading up to today, and we got about 10 days left before they start counting. So, we still got work to do. We're and very far from a finished product, but man, I like this group, and I like the way they put the work in.
Opening night, thank you for the call, Pee Wee. Coach, opening night, opening series, and you got to help me on which one it is. I'm sorry.
Washington State.
Washington State, that's right. Washington State, the Cougs come to town, and playing them not this weekend, but the next for 3 games, and looking forward to that. Zane, appreciate the time, man. Always good to see you. Looking forward to the season, seeing you on the Hill. Coach, thank you so very much, as always, for the time.
Love it. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Coach Rob Vaughn and lefty standout Zane Adams joining us here for this edition of Hey Coach, presented by Alpha Insurance.
Hey, I'm Ace Austin, and you're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Fans, there's no better way to experience Alabama basketball than with our live basketball booth cams presented by NASCAR. Streaming live during all Alabama men's and women's basketball home games this season, you'll get a front row seat to all the great reactions from our radio crew as the big plays happen for the Crimson Tide. Make sure you follow us on all your favorite social media platforms at UA_CTSN, especially subscribe on YouTube. That way you won't miss a single basketball booth cam this season. Again, presented by NASCAR for all Alabama men's and women's basketball home games this year.
Go, Holloway, a deep 3, bottom. Mercy from 30 feet out, dead on. Holloway with 25, and Bama leads it by 14.
Last night, we had another edition of Hey Coach and the Nate Oats Show presented by Alpha Insurance from Baumhauer's in Tuscaloosa. The show began with Ashley Johnston giving her thoughts on the Crimson Tide gymnastics team ahead of this week's meet against Arkansas. And then we were joined by the head coach of the Tide basketball team, Nate Oats, as he reacts to the win against Auburn. Also discusses the breaking news from yesterday that Charles Bediako will be ineligible for the remainder of the year. So Coach Oats will join Chris and give his thoughts on that coming up as we also get ready for Alabama against Ole Miss. Here's Chris Stewart with Nate Oats from Hey Coach.
We are back here at Hey Coach, presented by Alpha Insurance, joined by the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide, Coach Nate Oats. Good to see you, sir. Hey, I want to go back to that point, the clip we just heard. Houston Millette's 3, I believe that was the one with under 2.5 minutes to go before halftime. And there was a stretch there. You're down 10. I think it was exactly 2.5 minutes to go. And Taylor Bowen and Houston hit back-to-back threes, or within a 3-possession trip, and helped you get that thing from 10 down to 4. Talk about how big that was in terms of getting the result that you ultimately got. Because if that slides the other way and it goes from 10 to 16, we may be talking about that game in a whole different light now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Houston plays hard, so does Taylor. Those two great guys that have hit big shots and kind of going on a run. And I told the guys at halftime, man, we couldn't play much worse. Like, combination of turnovers, us not playing well on offense, not outside of the turnovers. I didn't think we got great shots. We'd only scored about 12 points, I think, the first 10 minutes of the game. So for us to only be down 4 at the half, we were lucky to only be down 4. And I think those threes late, helped with that. Hey, if we didn't finish the end of the half a little better, we tried to trap there at the end, make them move it. They hit the open 3. We didn't score after that. We were trying to not give them the last shot. We could have gone down 1, but I thought we did a pretty good job flipping that from down 10 to down 1 there in a hurry, and then going in down 4 at the half, and then coming out and just playing a lot better in the second half. I mean, offensively, we were significantly better in the second half, and thought, if it was, like you said, if it was 10 at the half, it would have been a lot different game. I mean, it came down to tight game there at the end.
Unfortunately, we've got to talk about some bad news, disappointing news. Court ruling today that and I may get the wording wrong, but in essence, Charles is not going to be able to play right now for your team.
Yeah, correct.
It was an overturn. Talk to us about where things stand and what happens now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously super disappointed in the whole thing, to be honest with you. I didn't think it ever should have got to court. I thought the NCAA should have made him eligible based on, over 100 current college basketball players, former professionals, most of them over in Europe, some in the G League, guys being drafted, rights owned by NBA teams, as in James Nagy being eligible to play. So I thought it was kind of a no-brainer with the NCAA, and then I didn't think it would be that big of an issue. The NCAA really hasn't changed much without courts forcing them to change. So I thought the courts would see the inconsistencies in the rulings and agree with Charles' attorneys at the NCAA. I mean, to me, the NCAA's point of why Charles shouldn't be eligible was all these rules that they have, but they're not applying those rules to all the other players they've made eligible. So to me, it is very disappointing in the whole case, disappointing for Charles. Now, for our team, we've got to turn the focus back to the guys that are going to be on the floor. And we've got some very capable players that we've won a lot of games before, won some big games before Charles got here. So we're getting some guys back healthy. We're going to have, Aiden really had 5 blocks. They blew the goaltending call at the end, and they really blew it because in the last 2 minutes, it's not a coach's challenge to call. The referees are supposed to do it on their own. So when they called that goaltend, that was not a goaltend. They were supposed to go, and it's New Year. Good crew of referees. They just didn't make the right. One, they didn't make the right call, and then they were supposed to go on their own and review it. So really, Aiden had 5 blocks in the last game, so it's great. He's been able to play with Charles. We've gotten him some, but he's going to have to continue to, take care of the interior, and then we're going to have to go back play a little small ball. When he's not in, and we'll just have. We'll figure it out. That's what coaches are here for. But yeah, disappointing ruling. Disappointed in the system, both the NCAA, the courts, the whole thing, just with all the inconsistencies with who's eligible, who's not. It just seems like the European international players are being given preferential treatment over the Americans, and more so happened today. Hopefully, at some point, somebody's going to win a ruling like this. It wasn't here today, but at some point, somebody will win one and change the system, because that's how it has to get changed in the NCAA. They don't make changes on their own, typically.
All right, Coach, let's get to the phones. Our first question from Alabama, 811. Help prevent injuries, outages, and loss of life. Call 811 or visit al811.com before you dig. It's free. It's simple. It's the law, and it's Pee Wee down in Grand Bay. Go ahead, Pee Wee.
Coach, how are you, sir?
Doing good. How you doing, Pee Wee?
I'm doing good, bud. Y'all had touched on one of the things that I was going to say about the game against Auburn, which was the 9-0 run right there before the half that got us back up. But, a couple of the things in the second half that I thought was big in the win was, number one, was our second chance point. I think we outscored Auburn like 10-1 on second chance point. And then points off the bench. We outscored them 15-1, and then at the line, we shot 90% in the second half and at the end of the game, and I think that is what sealed it for us. I was just curious how we are health-wise moving forward.
So, second chance points ended up even for the game, but we did a much better job in the second half, like you said. So that was great. I did feel like we moved the ball a lot better in the second half on the assists. We ended up with 17 assists. They ended up with 12, which, Pettiford had 7. Obviously a very good player, moved the ball. I thought we had a lot more guys move the ball. We had Philon with 6, and Holloway and Amari both had 4 assists each. So we had more guys kind of moving the ball where they just kind of had the one in Pettiford. And then you're talking about the free throws before we get to the health situation. Free throws, we've made a big point of it. I feel like we've lost some games this year based on not converting at the free throw line. Our guys have been in the gym working at it. They've done a good job. You look at the free throw percentage in the second half. Like you said, we go 18 for 20, 90%. But for the game, I mean, we didn't get to the line in the first half. That was part of the issue. Pretty much the same percentage of 90% is what we were for the game because majority of the free throws were shot in the second half. We turned it over too much in the first half and just didn't get the line. So we shot 87% on the game. So I thought we did a pretty good job. And that put a big difference in the game. They shot 77, we shot 87%. So, and then health-wise, we're getting close to having everybody available. I thought Taylor was able to practice today, did a good job. And he was the one, he just, with his injury he had, he got hobbled a little bit there. That game. Reitzel, I'm fairly confident Reitzel will be able to play on Wednesday. He nothing major showed up in his scans today. He just, with him, he's, you get a little nervous. He's a tough kid, puts himself in tough spots, plays super hard, but he's just for whatever reason has been very unlucky with so many injuries. So I think based on everything Clark's told me today, we should expect Reitzel to play on Wednesday. Taylor should be playing. Everybody else came out of that game pretty unscathed. So we're starting to get back to where we're fully healthy. Obviously disappointed won't be able to have Charles moving forward, but the rest of the guys I think will be healthy, and we're going to have to get some of these guys playing really well again.
And Coach also got to have them locked in because even though you're coming off of 3 huge high-profile games, if you will, the teams you're going to face this week are both very dangerous as well.
No, they are. I mean, I told our guys, Ole Miss has a lot of really talented players, guys that have scored it at a high level at college at different levels. The last time I said that a team hadn't quite got it together yet, but they're super talented and more than capable of getting it together and play was Texas. Texas came in here and they got it together against us, and they've looked pretty good since. So, whether that was Texas, us helping Texas get it together, a combination of both, we can't afford to do that anymore, because Ole Miss has talented players. They've got a coach in Beard that's coached in a national championship game. He knows what he's doing. He's good. Gets his guys to go hard. Like they also, had the unfortunate of having to switch a home and road game. They had the ice storm, so they've had 4 straight road games. So we know they lost them all, but they played 4 straight on the road, which never happens in the SEC because they do a good job with the schedule. So now they're going to get a bunch of games late that are at home, and we're kind of starting that home stretch for them. So there's multiple reasons why we got to be very careful, very locked in. We got to be playing our best basketball at Ole Miss. They beat us last year.
Right.
I mean, they did a great job with us last year. So we got to be ready to go in that game. And then South Carolina comes after that. That'll be a home game. But this road game at Ole Miss is a huge game for us.
Hey, I'm Tyler Booker. You're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Appreciate Chris. Appreciate Coach Oats. We'll hear from them to close out the show coming up in just a moment with Coach's final word of the night. But first, we want to take a look at our upcoming schedule as now with baseball and softball in action, starting to get busier and busier here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Tomorrow, men's basketball takes center stage as Alabama will be at Ole Miss, 5 o'clock for the airtime. 6 p.m. will be the tip-off at the Pavilion in Oxford. And then coming up on Thursday, we will only have Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR coming up at 2 o'clock. Again, the women's basketball team is off for its final open date of the season coming up on Thursday night. Then on Friday, really everything starts. Softball, of course, against Purdue and Liberty at 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. at Rhodes Stadium. At the same time as the Purdue softball game, baseball has opening day at the Joe at Sewell Thomas Stadium, 4 o'clock against Washington State. And then again, it's very busy Saturday coming up on campus. Softball hosting 2 games against Liberty and Purdue at 11 and 1 o'clock. Baseball at 2 o'clock against Washington State. And then men's basketball, 7:30 p.m. against South Carolina in Coleman Coliseum. Tip-off at 7:30, and our coverage on the network starting at 6:30 p.m. Then on Sunday, softball will wrap up play against Georgia Southern at 12:30. Baseball closes out the Washington State series at 1, and then women's basketball will play at 3 p.m. against the Oklahoma Sooners, and what's going to be another top 25 showdown for Christy Curry and the Crimson Tide. Then we'll talk all about it with Nate Oats coming up on Monday with Hey Coach and the Nate Oats Show presented by Alpha Insurance at 6 p.m. before we get into baseball midweeks as well next week. It's just going to be a busy time from here on out here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, so make sure you follow us at UA_CTN. If you're watching, of course, on YouTube, make sure you go ahead, hit subscribe, turn notifications on so you don't miss anything from the the Crimson Tide Sports Network. It's going to wrap up this Tuesday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Huge thanks to JaMychal Green for joining us, as well as thoughts from Rob Vaughn and Nate Oats. Ethan Carabin, our video producer, of course, always produces Hey Coach, the video stream, and he produces this show as well. We appreciate Ethan and his hard work, even putting together that highlight reel from Chris and JaMychal from the Auburn game as well. As we say goodbye on this Tuesday, we want the final word of the night to go to the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Nate Oats, presented by McCurry Van and Car Rental, as we look ahead to Alabama against Ole Miss coming up tomorrow. Don't forget, we'll be back for this show coming your way 2 p.m. on Thursday. Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Until then, I'm Roger Hoover saying thanks for watching so long. Take it away, Chris Stewart and Nate Oats.
Final thought as we wrap it up with you, Coach. A lot of things good, but your final thought as we close it out.
Yeah, no, obviously the news with Charles is disappointing. It's part of coaching. Guy goes down with a season-ending injury. You get news like this. Stuff happens. You got to get your guys refocused. You know, we've got a game at Ole Miss. I think our guys had a great practice today. We need to have another great practice. Get everybody focused on what it takes to beat Ole Miss and continue to build moving forward. And we're getting healthier and healthier, and guys are starting to, you want to be playing your best basketball come into February, March.
Sure.
We can still be doing that for sure, and that's got to be our focus. So continue to get the fans out. We got a home game Saturday. Let's get everybody out. Let's support everybody. Let's continue to move forward. We're on a 2-game win streak. We got to try to build off that.
Always appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Roll Tide.
Coach Nate Oats joining us here from Baumhauer's Victory Grill. Hey Coach is the program, and again, we appreciate all of our sponsors. You heard his final word, brought to you by McCurry Van and Car Rental.